starts. Good afternoon, your families, friends, fellow workers. I'm Dave McLaughlin, and beside me is Sean Livermore. We worked with Shayne Redford in various terminals since we hired out in 1985. Sean and I would like to share some memories that we have of Shayne, and in our own way, give you an idea where he was from, what he's like, and what he did with his life as best we can.
Shayne was born on July 1st, 1964, at the Edmonton, Redford, Saskatoon. He was a middle child of a very large family. In 1985, in April, Shayne and I went down to Winnipeg for 2 weeks, took our training courses together. About 3 years later, in the spring of '88, we went back to Winnipeg, along with Dave, and Shayne and I also went down there. Some of the other terminals we worked in, McGill in Vancouver, in September of '90, we moved to Edmonton, where we worked till this.
There's really only one word that truly sums up Shayne's personality: individual. If you ever asked anyone that works at a Battleford, what's he like, you'd probably hear different mentioned 9 times out of 10. Peace, brother. And how high to be, he was quick to become a model. He said once, "I don't smoke, I don't drink, but I know where it's at." That kind of statement was truly Shayne. It shows that he marched to the beat of a different drummer.
There's always ways to know that Shayne had been around. If you ever walked into a bunkhouse, there was 6 empty Coke cans in the garbage can, you know he had a long layover. When they took away the old Coke, he had petitions out, we all had to sign. And his CN stamp with his PIN number. Most of us just used it for our time returns, but Shayne, he had that stamp all over the place, as well as all over the world. He left his mark on celebrating.
I remember myself as a young kid sitting beside my grandfather and listening to his stories of Edinburgh and Montreal. Faraway places. Remember, he kept me glued to my seat. If he ever had to go away to do something, I made sure he started right back off where he left. Shayne was exactly the same way. My grandfather's stories, however, were just from him coming back or coming to Canada from Scotland. Shayne would talk for hours of adventures, of travel, and seeing the world. You see, Shayne was very close to being in every country, big or small, free or communist bloc, and was down to an estimated 3 countries to go, and had 3 places to see: South America, Africa, and Scandinavia. He was even interviewed by North Battleford Cable and television to discuss some of his trips, being Egypt, Israel, China, and Russia. They had him on there for about a half an hour each, 4 episodes. In all these places, he spent a great deal of time. You know, I might be making him sound like he was just some kind of a tourist who just loved to travel, but in my mind, he was no tourist. He didn't come close to being a tourist. You see, he put his heart in his planning of every trip. The reasons for going to these countries wasn't just for travel and sightseeing, snapping up pictures. It was politically motivated. It was for himself, just to quench his yearning for travel. Shayne was very well read and had an almost photographic memory. And he knew of people's needs all over the world. If there was a country in the world that people were being oppressed, Shayne knew why. This man cared for people. The world became his playground. He told me once that to see what a place is really like, you have to spend time there. You have to go, see it firsthand, and go off the beaten trail. This quest for knowledge brought him in such situations as having his camera pulled out of his hands in Russia for being accused of taking pictures of a military train, sitting on the foot of Buddha at an ancient Chinese temple, dodging kangaroos in the outback of Australia in a car that he bought for $800, being deported from China just before the Tamilyn Square massacre. He was there. He defied being arrested in the communist bloc country for having an expired visa. He had only 24 hours to stay in that country, yet he hadn't seen enough and he refused to leave. Backpacking in the rainforest of New Zealand, being picked up by an overzealous truck driver in Greece. You got it on the truck there. Cameras stolen, money stolen, being searched at borders, dodging arrests in communist countries, held at gunpoint, weeks of waiting for entry visas into countries, looking for guides, places to sleep, boarding houses, hitchhiking, on tours. It's hard to imagine, but he wouldn't stop talking of his adventures as long as was still there to listen. Everything from the necklace around his neck to tapes in his tape case was him. It was special. To tell of his travels would take me hours, minutes. I hope you can get an idea that the earth wasn't so big to him. A trip to Vancouver for him was like a drive across town. Like, he might end up anywhere in the wind, and only his car seemed to know where to go and when to stop. He left once about 6 or 8 months ago, he told me. By himself, he had to get away to do some thinking. So he hit the highway, ended up in Vancouver. I remember he told me that he phoned his girlfriend, Suzanne, from Vancouver when he got there, and told her not to worry and I'll be back soon. He had an itch and had to scratch it, and after he was done, he came home. But Suzanne could tell you 10 times more stories than I could. And she knew what she was in for when she had Shayne. When they first met, they only knew each other for a few weeks. Shayne gave her his watch and said, "Now I have to come back. You have my watch." For 7 months, as he went on a tour of Europe, sending back letters and bags of stuff, small mementos, and I always kept in touch with Suzanne. How do you try and compare stories with this guy? You tell him of a trip to Jasper and you compare it to rainforests in New Zealand. He's incredible, he was impressive, informative, full of life and energy, true stories, and a 27-year-old world adventure, which gained him the respect of his elders and the flattery of his peers. So when he spent his days talking to us, taking us on countless imaginary journeys through rainforests and streams, faraway cities and countries, visits with people, smells and sounds of beaches and coves, he would talk for hours. He was a big heart and broad mind. His views weren't confined to work and the present. From his mohawk hairstyle to wraparound shades to wearing work boots with shorts, getting him the nickname Boots from Headford, he stuck out. His worldly views stick out in my mind best, especially by a story during the 1987 strike. While people were upset and a little on edge, Shayne broke the ice a little by writing, "Save the whale, down with apartheid," and his personal best with a written petition, "We want the old coat back."